What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another match preview stream, but not any other match preview stream. It is the North London derby, Tottenham against Arsenal. It's time to face the old enemy from South London. They're coming into it with a bit of worries. Spurs, I feel Spurs fans coming into it with a bit of, I wouldn't say confidence, but a bit more hope than maybe the last couple of years.
Definitely. I mean, considering the injuries, I definitely think there's an air of confidence around the fan base. Whether earned or not is another question, but I think the fact that Rice and Odegaard, well, to be fair, just listening to Arteta, he hasn't completely ruled out Odegaard, but maybe that's a bit of gamesmanship. I do think he's going to be out. I'm looking at that injury. It doesn't look great for him. Surely he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. But
even if he was to play, he wouldn't be fully fit.
Yeah, surely. He has been training and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think he is going to play, but Arteta maybe tactically not ruling him out in his pre-match press conference. But without those two, it's definitely going to take a lot out of their team, and especially when it comes to combating what we're trying to do, from a pressing point of view, how they're going to be able to handle our pressing game, how they're going to be when they're going forward as well. It severely impacts their game, but they still got some really good players coming in. Yeah. Very experienced players who have been in these situations, been in these big games. So I don't expect a giant drop-off from Arsenal and I don't think this game will be won and lost just because Rice or Odegaard are in the team. I think we can beat them with Rice and Odegaard. I really believe that. We could have beaten them last year when they had Rice and Odegaard. So I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor, but what I do think is I think they're really set up to exploit our flaws. But I also think the way we play is definitely geared towards getting chances against a team like Arsenal. And I think we can really do that. And I think we did that last year, and I think we can do that again this year.
It's just a game that sends butterflies in your stomach. It shivers up your spine. It's the game we all look forward to, and I'm really excited for it. Like the last couple of years, or definitely last year, I was kind of dreading the fixture. Definitely the one at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I felt like I was dreading it a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe I won't be feeling that way come 90 minutes on Sunday, but yeah, I think it's a really good time to play them. I don't think they're playing well. I know they're getting the results. They've got 2 wins and a draw, but I don't think they're at the top of their game. Having said that, they weren't at the top of their game at the beginning of last season either, and we did nick a point off them at the Emirates with a really good performance. So we need to go one better in this game. I feel like a draw just doesn't help either side in this game.
I mean, I don't think a draw is a bad result for us. And actually, I don't think a draw is a bad result. It's not a great result for Arsenal considering they drew to Brighton and they got Man City coming up next week. So I would say a draw is a worse result for Arsenal than us, actually, in this game. But
you really want to start one win in your first 4 games?
No, but you don't. But I would still say it's a worse result for Arsenal in the context of what they're trying to achieve this season. If they draw this game and lose to City, they could be 5 points or so. Well, actually, I guess they will be 5 points behind.
Well, you say trying to achieve. I mean, Ange Postecoglou said in the press conference there's no reason why Spurs shouldn't be challenging this season.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, that's what he said. That's what Ange is a believer, isn't he? Ange is always one who's going to go for the big prize. He's not going to settle for anything less, and he's not going to be happy with anything less. That's the kind of mentality he's had. That's how he's been throughout his career. He's always been that kind of character, and that's why he's achieved the success that he has achieved. You don't achieve the success that he has in his career, even in the leagues he has been. People argue, oh, it's only this league or that league, but you don't achieve such consistent success if you don't have full belief that what you're trying to do can take you to the very top, 100%, and I'm sure he has full belief in that.
Would you take a draw right now if I offered it to you?
No, I wouldn't.
No, me neither. We have to go there for the 3 points. We have to take the 3 points, in my opinion. It's been too long. The last 2 years has been so disappointing. Like, never in my lifetime have we lost back-to-back White Hart games in N17 to Arsenal, and now we're living that harsh reality at the moment. We've lost the last 2 games in Tottenham. We have to respond. We have to give back to the fans. And I know, look, the first game that we lost, we were terrible. We got completely outplayed. But I do feel last year at Tottenham, we played a lot better than the scoreline suggests. 3-0 down at half-time, it was never a 3-0 game. Never in a million years. We dominated the possession, we created chances. Mickey van der Ven's goal probably even should have stood to make it 1-1, and it's a completely different game. And to be 3-0 down at half-time was just a massive kick in the teeth. And look, we did respond in a good way in that second half and got 2 goals back and potentially could have got more. But we did lose the game, and that's the reality, and we have to respond this weekend and take all 3 points. We'll get into how we think we can beat Arsenal and where their flaws are and where their strengths are and where our flaws and strengths are in a minute. But let's go and look at the form of the two sides going into it. Obviously, if you look at results, Arsenal are most definitely the team more in form than Spurs at the moment. They're not conceding many goals. I think they've conceded 1 goal so far this season, which was against Brighton when they were down to 10 men. Their away form, if you look at their away form last season, it was, very, very good. They don't concede many goals away from home. They keep it a tight ship, and they wait for their moments to attack. But I do think when you're looking at the form I wouldn't say it lies to you, but is it a little bit misleading in terms of how both teams are playing so far in these first 3 games of the season? I do feel like we are actually playing better than them in the first 3 games.
I think I would argue we're having a bit more control, or as much control, I would say, than Arsenal at the moment. I think we've actually, conceded less chances than them so far. I think they're also getting a lot more fortunate than we are when it comes to missed chances. You look at the Leicester and the Newcastle games, and we conceded from very few chances that we gave to the opposition. Yes, they were good chances, don't get me wrong, but it was 1 or 2 chances, and bam, we conceded in those moments. You look at the Arsenal games against Wolves and Villa, they probably conceded just as many chances as we did in the games that we played, and they were lucky that the chances were missed.
Isn't he?
The chances were missed, but worldies and also bad finishing. Whereas
Ollie Watkins, you'd bank your house on him scoring chances like that.
Yeah, the chances he missed were incredible. Even though in the Brighton game, there was a Brighton player when they were at 1-1 who had the whole half of the goal to aim at, and he just shot it straight at Raya when it was pretty much an open goal. So they are definitely conceding a lot more chances than their defensive numbers would suggest, in my opinion, and probably similar to what we're conceding so far this season. In terms of defence, they've conceded 1 goal. They've conceded 1 goal. We've conceded 3 goals.
Yeah.
So it's not that different when it comes to the actual numbers. But I think those are misleading. You look at those numbers, you'd think, oh, Arsenal must be a lot tighter at the back, and obviously defensively they are, but I don't think it takes into account the chances that players have been missing against Arsenal compared to us. I think we're having a lot more control in games. I think teams are having more of the game against Arsenal than they are against us. For example, that Villa game, for a large part of that game, Villa were much the better team, and they missed those chances, and they were the ones actually in the ascendancy for a lot of that game. Even the Newcastle game, there was only probably a small period where they were actually the better team, on top of us, and that was probably for the first 15 minutes or so, and they did score in that time, but that was probably it. And apart from that, it was all Tottenham. I don't think apart from that we've had not had control of the game in any of the games so far this season. Maybe a 10-minute spell as well against Leicester that we, after conceding, we gave up a bit of control, but after we regained it in that game. I think again, when watching Arsenal, and in the Wolves game, when they were losing 1-0, when they were winning 1-0, they I would say for a good half an hour before they scored the second goal, they were under the cosh, and they could have easily conceded a goal in that one time. For half the game against Brighton, they didn't have control of that game. I know they were down to 10 men, but they didn't have control of that game. And for a good hour to 70 minutes of the Villa game, they didn't have control of that game. So I would argue, performance-wise, we've probably been better so far this season when it comes to how we've controlled games and stuff like that. But, game circumstance, especially in such a small sample size, can make a difference, and that's what we're seeing at the moment.
Having said that, in that period where they did lose control to Brighton, when they did have 10 men, they still were able to fashion really good chances for themselves. So that just shows you the quality that they do have. And we all know the quality. They've been fighting for the title for the last couple of years. But this graphic is the graphic that we need to put right this weekend. This record against Arsenal is absolutely disastrous. 3 losses in our last 4 games, and only 1 draw and 1 draw as well. So I think that is absolutely disgraceful, to be honest, to look at that, facing our biggest rivals and 0 wins in our last 4 games. And you look at our games against rivals, against Arsenal, against Chelsea, particularly against West Ham even, we're just not really coming on top on a consistent basis, and we need to put that right. And it needs to start this weekend.
Of course. On the positive note, looking at that, obviously the 2 games under Conte, when we lost 3-1 and 2-0, we were absolutely second best in those games, and we deservedly got the loss, I would say. But in the 2 games last season, it was a different case. The 2-2 draw at the Emirates was more than well on point, I would argue. Could have even won it. And the game at White Hart Lane was really unlucky. It could have gone either way. The margins went against us, but we could have easily gotten something out of that game. So it was definitely not a 3-0 game. They were lucky to be 3-0 up, and we had a lot of that game. So in terms of performance-wise, I know you don't get any points for that, but it's much better showing in the last 2 derbies and the 2 derbies before that, and that goes to show the difference we made under Ange Postecoglou. A lot braver, taking the game to the opposition, and I think we got 1 point as opposed to no points last season, so that makes a big difference. And we are coming up against a very good Arsenal team. You can't take any points for granted against this kind of team, so it's going to be a difficult game, but I really believe we can get a result in this game. I don't see a reason why we can't. I think we have enough in our team to get a result in this game for sure.
If you look at the Arsenal injuries, obviously, I think last season Arsenal had the second least, long-term injuries over the course of the season, and already you're seeing those injuries start to come this season. Marino hasn't even played a game, out for 2 months. Odegaard just got injured on international break. Tomiyasu, he always seems to be injured. Declan Rice suspended. Jesus and Calafiori are doubts. Calafiori getting that injury on international duty, didn't take part in any of the Italy game in their second game. Jesus, I believe, has been training this week, so I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I think he trained today. He trained today, so you probably think he's fit for the game. From an Arsenal perspective, you probably want to see Havertz in the 9 as opposed to the 8.
From an Arsenal perspective, yeah. The way Havertz has been playing, yeah, for sure. He's been, I have to say, over the last 3 months, really brilliant form. He's in brilliant form. I don't think anyone can deny that. As much as he was a figure of fun and people like to make fun of him, and especially when he was at Chelsea and at the start of his Arsenal career, people were saying Chelsea pulled Arsenal's pants down with that deal, and Arsenal are clowned for it. It's been
looking
working
like money
out for
well
them.
spent at the moment.
It's been working out for them. He's been a revelation over the past 4 months, I would say. The way he holds the ball up, he brings other players into play. He's been getting goal scoring positions. His finishing has been a lot more improved. He's been a lot more clinical. He has a bit of aerial ability as well. Look, whether he can keep it up or not, we have to wait and see. And I don't know, is his future in the 9? Can he be a 9 that can win you the league? That's still up for debate. I think the jury's out in that. But you can't deny that in the last 3 months, he's been fantastic. And that's absolutely right. But at the end of the day, it's still only 3 months. Can he do it over a whole season? Can he be a striker who gets, over 15 Premier League goals and do that consistently?
To be fair to him, second half of the season, he scored 13 goals last season. I think he scored 14 overall.
I think it was 13 overall.
Was it 13 overall? Either way,
so.
The majority of those goals, I think all but one of those goals came in the second half of the season. When he did move to the 9, because first half of the season he wasn't playing well. He was dropped to the midfield. Ever since he's moved to the 9, he has been really consistent in scoring goals and getting assists.
Yeah, and there were games he was playing in the 9 first half of the season where he didn't play well, but I think it's once he's found his confidence and once he's really found what Mikel Arteta wants in that role. As I've said, he's been really consistent over the last 3 months and really impressive, and he looks like maybe he could be the answer for them potentially. I still think the jury's out whether am I convinced that like Kai Havertz is now their striker that they're gonna be relying on for the next 4 years to be their number 9 going forward, or
maybe
could they upgrade on him? I still think he's I still kind of think he's upgradable. I still don't think he's a striker you can rely on to maybe win the league. But I do think he's been very good. Like, will he get them 20 goals this season? I mean, he's on 2 already, so he's started the season really well. But we'll have to wait and see whether he can consistently do it over a whole season. But he's doing very well. I think
he can definitely get 20 contributions.
Yeah, well, he got close to that last season, so because he gets assists as well. So, and I guess if that's all you need if you've got Saka getting lots of goals, and you got Trossard and Martinelli and Sterling all chipping in. Then he doesn't need more than that, to be fair, to be good enough.
Yeah, I do think Arsenal do go in for a striker next summer. Someone like I think they're going to go get Sesko next summer and have him and Havertz as the options as a 9, and that is going to be a scary thought, to be honest, because both of them, Sesko, I really believe in. I think he's a top player. But Saka is the one that we really need to look out for. He always turns up against Tottenham. Always, even when he doesn't play well, he seems to get a goal contribution. And even looking at his first 3 games this season, I don't think he's played particularly out of his skin, but he always pops up with a goal contribution. Mm-hmm. Always. So you look at last season, how we left him 1-on-1 with Ben Davies with that brilliant ball from Kai Havertz. That won't happen this year because Udogie will be there. We saw in the first game at the Emirates last year, Saka gave Udogie a few problems, but once Udogie kind of settled in the game, he had the upper hand on Saka, and Saka didn't even want to take him on. That's what happened in that second half. Saka, every time he got the ball on that right-hand side, checked back. He didn't want any of the smoke that Udogie was going to give him. So I'm much more hopeful to deal with Saka now that Udogie is fit.
Definitely, and you, it doesn't take a genius to work out that Udogie is definitely going to be able to deal with Saka a lot better than Ben Davies. Ben Davies was always going to struggle, and if there was any situation where Davies was going to be in a 1-on-1 with Saka, you'd always back Saka all day in that kind of field. But Udogie's got the physical profile. He's also a bit more experienced as well. He's had his first year in the Premier League now, so he knows what to expect. He's had a game against Saka, so he knows what to expect in that game. And yeah, Saka is one of those players against us where he doesn't have to be having a great game and he can make the difference. The game at the Emirates, he got a goal with a deflection and a penalty from a dodgy handball decision against Romero, and then the game at the Lane, he scored from probably his only moment in the game where he made the difference, and he ended up getting on the score sheet. So he didn't have to do too much in both those games to end up with 3 goals, and probably got an assist for the Højbjerg own goal as well for the corner. So he's a dangerous player, and he's a player who's really developed amazingly for Arsenal over the last couple of years, become a really consistent performer, got 16, I think, league goals last season. I don't know how many assists on top of that as well. So he's a consistent goal scorer now. He's really fulfilling the potential that Arsenal felt he had. But I also feel like he's one of these players where if you just make sure if you double up on him and make sure he's not getting that space, and you've got someone like Udogie who can match him physically, he can definitely be kept quiet. I do believe that. As we've said, even if you keep him quiet, it doesn't stop him from making an impact. But if you can restrict him as much as possible, I do think we can shut him out. And if we can keep Udogie on him all game and have him playing like he played at the Emirates for a lot of that game, then I think hopefully he can deal with him. But it's going to be difficult, especially the way we play. We commit risk. We put the balls forward. Udogie's going to have to be inverting sometimes. So, on that basis, Udogie's still going to have his work cut out for him to stop Bukayo Saka, especially on the breakaway. But I do think the fact that Odegaard's not playing will massively play in our favour, in the fact that he's going to have one less person feeding him, and that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only about the one person feeding him, but the lack of their best presser in the team as well. I know Kai Havertz is a very good presser as well. They've got other good pressers in the team, but Odegaard always leads that press. He's a brilliant player from the offensive and the defensive part of the game as well, in my opinion. So I do think they're going to miss a lot in that midfield without Declan Rice and without Martin Odegaard. And with the injury news to Spurs that Dom Solanke and Mickey van der Ven are going to be fit to play the game, it is a bit frustrating about Yves Bissouma. It's not confirmed whether he's going to be fit or not, but he is a major doubt apparently for the game. Richarlison is obviously out, which is frustrating as well, because Richarlison he just can't stay fit, can he? No. He just cannot stay fit. But on Mickey van der Ven, he was the one that I was looking at if you're fit, then I feel a lot more positive about this game, because not only from a defensive capability, also from an offensive capability. Like, obviously, we're going to be playing that high line. They're going to try and catch us out, and he's going to be the main one that's going to be averting that threat. But you look at that assist that he got for Sonny in the game against Everton, right, where he just charged up the pitch. I feel he should be trying that against Arsenal, because the lack of legs that Arsenal have in midfield with Partey and Jorginho, what a better guy than Van de Ven to be ferociously running at them.
Yeah, you got to remember that was late in the game and they were 3-0 down, so they were committing players forward when that happened. In a game state where Arsenal are sitting deep, I don't know if Van de Ven does that, but all same. I mean, if Everton are sitting deep, I don't know if he does that, but. Definitely, why not? When he's got the opportunity, he's got the legs for it. They don't have Odegaard, who's going to be pressing him as much. So you got Van de Ven, who when he gets into top gear, can't be stopped. So I think he's trying every game because he's Van de Ven and he's the fastest player and the fastest centre back in the league. So in any situation where he's got no space to run into, and he can charge into that space, and I think that's what Ange encourages. He says he doesn't care if you're a centre-back or a full-back or whoever. If you're a footballer who has got space to play in, you go for it and have confidence.
Play, yeah.
You have confidence in yourself. So I do think Van de Ven will do it in any situation, in any game that he sees that he's capable of doing it in. But it's going to be very crucial how he plays in this game, because especially when we're pushing up, when we're pressing Arsenal. I thought I was watching some of the clips back of last game, and I thought for a lot of it he dealt with Havertz really well. Unfortunately, from that set piece was one of the instances he didn't deal with Havertz well, and he was one of the players supposed to be marking him. But thankfully, from set pieces, we've changed it a bit. I was watching a brilliant video from Nathan Clark, who does the extra inch, and he was giving a breakdown and the differences with what we were doing last season from set pieces. And basically, last season we had a fully zonal system where all our big what's it called? We had 6 players zonally marking in the box, and we had 4 players man marking. And the 6 players zonally marking in the box, a lot of them were our best headers of the ball, and a lot of them were, Romero and Van de Ven were part of that 6. Now we've changed it and we've got 4 players zonally marking. I think we've got like 6 players man marking, and of the players who are man marking, you've got Romero and Van de Ven now man marking as opposed to zonally marking. And that should really help when it comes to not getting overwhelmed by the opposition, especially when they've got set-piece routines that Arsenal did last season, rushing to the near post, all that kind of stuff. When you've got Romero and Van de Ven rushing as opposed to just standing there waiting for the ball and just being able to be manipulated by Arsenal, that should really help defend those set pieces this season, as opposed to last season where it was a disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's an understatement.
But people talk about last season's set pieces, but people overlook that we had just as many chances from set pieces as they did.
True.
And if it wasn't for
Romero's got to be sticking one of those away, at
Romero should have
least.
scored 2, let alone 1. He hit the post. He had another one just inside the 6-yard box, which he headed wide. For all the talk of set pieces, it could have easily been 2-2 just on set pieces last year.
It's very true. Very, very true. The one thing I am a bit worried with Van de Ven, maybe you alluded to it a bit there, is maybe him coming up against Kai Havertz in the air, because Kai Havertz is brilliant. Maybe not from set pieces, just in a general game state with them, Arsenal maybe lumping it forward a little bit. I do feel like Havertz might have the edge on Van de Ven in the air.
Yeah, I think Van de Ven isn't actually, even though he's so tall, he aerially can actually be beaten. I've noticed that ever since we got him. I do think he's improved since we signed him, but Havertz, that is one of his strengths. And if they do swing the ball in, obviously, you do worry about that. Hopefully, Romero and Van de Ven can deal with that between them, because Romero is actually pretty aerially dominant. And so I would back Romero in a duel with Van de Ven with Havertz aerially, but Havertz is good aerially, and I'm not saying he can be dominant. He's physically good, but he's not like, he's big and he's strong and he is physical, but I don't see him as like this unstoppable force physically like some other strikers in the league, like a Haaland or even a Solanke. I would see them as a level above a Havertz physically, but he is physical, so there is something to be wary about. But Van de Ven's got to be stronger. no doubt about it. And if he's losing too many aerial duels, then that's something to be worried about. But I'm backing Van de Ven here. I think he can up his game. And when it comes to on the ground and pressing and being extra aggressive against Havertz, I think Van de Ven could have the edge there with his pace.
If Bissouma is out, which it looks like he very well could be, how much of a loss do you think that is for us?
It's a blow. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a blow because he started the season really well. I think he can cover a bit more ground than Bentancur. I actually think Bentancur, pressing-wise, is better than Bissouma. I think Bissouma might have the edge when it comes to his ability to turn out of trouble, albeit Bentancur's also quite good at that. I just think Bissouma's a bit better at that. I think Bissouma can cover a bit more ground and maybe he's a bit better in the duels than Bentancur. But I think when Bentancur was fully fit, I think those are things he can all do.
He's also form as well.
Also, he's not in the, he hasn't been in the best form for a bit, Bentancur. But I also think he's starting to get a bit better. I think recently he's starting to play a lot better, Bentancur. And I thought against Leicester and against Bayern in pre-season, there are glimpses of him getting back to his best. So it's a blow. I think Bissouma would have been the player who I would have wanted. But I back Bentancur. I think he can make an impact in this game if he's the one starting. I think in the pressing he can be really effective. The only problem is the fact that it's going to be Bentancur there. Is Ange going to be now more tempted to add a Sarr next to him rather than go with Decky? That's what I'm a bit more worried about, to be honest. Because does he back Bentancur to cover as much ground as Bissouma can cover? And if not, is he going to say, okay, we're going to want Sarr with you then, just to make sure we've got that ground covered? Or is he going to is he going to continue to be brave and play Decky with Madders? Because I think if Bissouma's fit, I actually think he does go with Decky and Madders with him. But now it's Bentancur. Does he second guess that maybe decision? I'm not sure.
In my opinion, I would like to see Ange just tweak the system a little bit. I think we spoke about it earlier in the week a little bit, but I'd like to see Kulusevski on the right with Sarr, Bentancur and Maddison in the middle with Porro right back. But I don't want Porro inverting as much as he does. I want him to stick out wide a little bit, and that allows Kulusevski to come inside a bit more. I think I would like to see that a bit more if Bissouma's out. Even if Bissouma's fit, I'd like to see that potentially, but with Bissouma coming in for Bentancur. But I feel like Kulusevski last year on the right-hand side gave their left side a really torrid time, particularly in that first half. And I think with his strength, with his ability to hold on to the ball, with his creativity as well, I think for this one-off game, I know you're probably shouting at your screen saying, you always say Kulusevski is rubbish on the right and he needs to stick in the central area as well. I feel like him being on the right in this game, he could occupy a lot of those central areas anyway. And I feel like for this game, for this one-off game, I'd like to see that tweak.
I would like to stick with Madders and Decky in the middle, even though we run the risk of counters and stuff like that. I just think the way this game is set up, that the fact that Rice and Odegaard are both out, I think it's tailor-made to have Decky with Maddison here to really put the pressure on them. I'll go through a tactical breakdown later, but like when you can see that Partey and Jorginho, sometimes they can struggle when they're being pressed in these areas, and I think Decky's such a great presser from the middle. I think we want him there, and I think with Solanke in the team, you want him linking up, getting close to Solanke, in my opinion, and you want him being able to play the ball into Solanke, get those one-two touch passes off him, pass it into him, and get Solanke to kind of back into Saliba or Gabriel and then play off him. I think you don't want that dynamic to change, and I think you will just miss an element of technical ability with him out wide. And if we put a Sarr in there, I feel like all of a sudden, if Arsenal concentrate on shutting down Maddison, we're going to find it too difficult to break him down. And I feel like also then we become very narrow as well, because Decky's always going to be cutting inside.
But what I'm saying is I want Porro to
understand
use that
what you're
width.
saying. Understand what you're saying. But that can cause even more other problems, because we're used to playing another system, all of a sudden making adjustments, and then if it doesn't work, then we're causing then it causes other issues. I want Porro to overlap sometimes as well, but I want Spurs to try and make that a pitch in the forward line as big as possible. If you have Porro's one overlapping, all that means is you've got a winger tracking back. It doesn't mean it stretches the back line.
It also means you've got your best crosser of the ball feeding the balls into Solanke.
Yes, But if we've got Porro in the half space and potentially Kulusevski in the 8 cutting inside and playing those crosses, we can still have that. And I think if it's either Brennan or Odegaard from that right hand side, I think Brennan with his crosses can do a good job from there as well. So I think I just think the dynamic of having Maddison and Decky there against what Arsenal are going to have in the middle is just too tempting not to do. And I think we need to be brave in that situation. And I think if we do that, then I think we could really overwhelm Arsenal. And I think we've got a better chance of throwing their tactical plans out the window with Decky and Madders there than we do with Decky back out on the right. I think it's too safe, in my opinion.
And, you know, what you're saying about throwing their tactical plan out the window, I think the first goal wins this game. I really do. That's how important I think it is. You know, we get the first goal, like you say, it throws their tactical plans completely out the window. They're going to have to create a few more gaps. And without Odegaard and Declan Rice there, that becomes a lot more difficult to them for them to defend those situations. But if they get the first goal, they're going to revert deeper. They're going to sit deeper and deeper and deeper throughout the game, and it's going to get more difficult and more difficult and more difficult for us. So we have to start so fast, don't we? Yeah,
I was watching the game. I was rewatching the game last year, and what I noticed was in
when
the
did
first.
You rewatch it?
Huh?
When did you rewatch it?
Just before I was rewatching
today.
it. I wasn't watching it all. I watched it like double speed. I was just taking some notes, and what I noticed in those first 20 minutes, obviously, I think we conceded after 15 minutes, and then we conceded again, I think, on 25 minutes. But what I noticed for those first 25 minutes was Arsenal were actually coming out a bit and were trying to play against us, and they kept getting caught, and they kept getting we kept pressing them, and we kept catching them in their in what's it called, in our press, and we kept creating chances from it. And then as soon as they got their second goal, we didn't catch them again because they didn't actually have to start playing.
Yeah.
They just dropped deep, and they started just playing long balls, and they relied on maybe pressing us a bit when we had goal kicks, but that we weren't catch. I think it was a combination of maybe our confidence dropping a bit, and also Arsenal not needing to play their way through us because they had a 2-goal lead, so they didn't have to take any more risks. So that's how crucial it is when the game state. The fact that we gave them the fact they got those 2 goals made a big difference to how the game went last year. So if we can get that first goal and keep it open, then all of a sudden that gives us more opportunities to catch them out in our pressing as well.
Do you think Arsenal will follow that kind of route and come at us a little bit, try play their football in the opening stages of this game, or do you feel like because of the injuries and the suspensions and the players that they do have out, they'll play it a bit more conservative from the off and maybe just wait for those chances?
I think Arteta is confident and maybe arrogant, you could argue, enough that he will go for. I think he'll try and beat us. I don't think they're going to come here for a draw. They're going to try and win the game, and you don't try and win a game by not trying to win it from the start. I think that's how Arteta sees it. So I do think they're going to try and come at us early doors. I think they're going to maybe try and take us by surprise. Maybe people will think they're going to be very defensive, and they'll try and play through us, I think. And that's how they're going to approach the game. And then once they can get in the lead, and then I think they'll start to adjust. So I do think he's going to try and win. I don't think it's going to be a low block from the off. And people associate last year with it was this low block performance, but it was only after 2-0 that it became that, because they got a 2-goal lead.
True.
So I unless they're in that situation, I don't see them reverting to that.
Yeah, well, whatever happens, it's going to be fireworks, absolute fireworks on the high street, in the stadium. I cannot wait for it. The atmosphere is going to be something to behold, as it always is against Arsenal. But I mean, Arsenal shut us up, didn't they, in the last one, where it wasn't as ferocious on the high street maybe as it was for that 3-0. But that 3-0 game, we have to replicate that atmosphere, because when we come into a game in that atmosphere, there's just a sense of inevitability a little bit, and we need to see the flares, we need to see the people lining the streets, we need to hear people's voices at a complete max. I want everyone that's going to the game just to come back with literally no voice whatsoever. It will be an absolute brilliant day for all of us. So It's always tricky coming up against the old enemy, those little South London nomads, but I'm predicting a win. I'm going 2-1 Spurs.
Yeah, the more I think of it, the more I think we can definitely win this game. It's just whether we have the mentality to do it. That could also play into it. Will we? I think under Ange, I think we've been brave, but sometimes when push comes to shove, do we have it in us to get over the line in a big game like this? We haven't quite shown that yet. A big win. I know we beat Liverpool, but that's probably the only real big win we've had.
And that was very lucky win.
That was lucky, and that was with an own goal last minute. So I think,
and Liverpool down to 9 men,
and they were down to 9 men. So I think there are still question marks on that front. Can we get that big win against a good team? Under him, mentality-wise, or will if we're 2-1 up, going to the last 10 minutes, will we concede a late equaliser kind of thing? We have the quality to win. Do we have the mentality to win? That's the jury's out on that. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw, but I do think we have enough in this game to win. I don't see there's no reason why we can't win, apart from that we just haven't shown that we can.
Come on, man. Predict the win. Predict the win. It's the North London derby, man. There ain't no points on the line for this prediction, mate. There's no points on the line. Predict that win. 3 points is coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this weekend. We're going to put Arsenal in their holes, and they're going to creep out of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and never to be seen again until we play them at the Emirates.
If we win, I think that could be their title challenge even done before it starts.
It's mad to say that, like a title challenge done after the 4 games.
You can't give City an 8-point head start. You just can't do that. You can't.
Yeah, but there is a situation where they go to City and get a point.
Yeah, there is. But I'm just saying, if they lose these 2 games, you can't. That's title done for me. You can't give City an 8-point head start. You can't do that. They have City. Well, how many points behind them with 5 games to go and still won it? Was it or 8 games?
It was
6 games.
Yeah,
to
look,
go, and they still won it.
You're talking about one of the greatest teams in Premier League history here.
You can't give them if they get an 8-point head start. How are Arsenal ever going to claw that back?
Yeah,
can't see it.
I can't see it as well. But Man City lose 1 game, Arsenal win 1 game, and points start to claw back. I can't see it, but it's not impossible. 5 games gone.
Obviously, it's not impossible. I'm just saying you're giving the best. You're giving your title rivals who pretty much second half of the season win every game. You're giving them 8 points. That's 3-game head start.
You know what though? I would
a 3-game head start.
Absolutely love it. I'm going to be here for it. If Arsenal go 8 points behind 5 games in, the Arsenal fans are just going to be in full meltdown mode. I mean, they thought it was their year coming into it. That's what they literally thought. They thought, yeah, we're a match for Man City. We're going to do it. Our names on the trophy this year. They were saying it with their chests, man. They were coming out with their chests early doors before the season started, saying this is our year. And if they're 8 points behind after the first 5 games of the season, I cannot wait for this meltdown.
I think that would be a massive psychological blow to them as well.
I agree.
Because I think when they were doing it the first time and they were 8 points clear of them, and they ended up giving that away. And then last year they were chasing them for a lot of the season. I don't think they were ever 8 points behind, and maybe they were, but they were close to them for a lot of the season, keeping them in their sight, but they just couldn't make it. But I think if they go 8 points behind early on, I think that could have a really damaging effect to their confidence and that mentality. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start dropping some surprise points if they do that as well. I wouldn't be surprised.
And we'll be here for it, guys. We'll be here for it, covering each and every game on the ball with our Premier League predictions and reviews. But that is our preview for the big North London derby, Sunday 2 o'clock kickoff.